How do you approach classroom walkthroughs with veteran teachers? That is Michael's question. Michael writes, visits to veteran teachers' classrooms who are high performing. How do you approach? I think this is a fantastic question because we're always going to have people who are harder to give feedback to because there's no low-hanging fruit, right? If you have veteran staff, if you have people who are really high performing, it's not obvious what they should do differently. And especially if they teach something you didn't teach, if they have expertise that you don't have, and just if they have, a lot of experience, it is very hard to find good feedback, especially if we're thinking about feedback in terms of suggestions. So let's get into it. So this was absolutely the situation I was in as a new principal. I was hired as a principal at a very young age. I started when I was 27, and many of my teachers had been in the school almost that long. I had very veteran staff. I had very talented staff, very high performing. So I knew I couldn't approach my classroom walkthroughs from the perspective that, like, I know what you're doing wrong and I'm going to tell you and I'm going to fix you. That was not going to get me anywhere because I couldn't do it. I couldn't fix them. There wasn't that low-hanging fruit and that obvious room for improvement. So what I did, and what ultimately became a lot of my work that I do now, and my book, Now We're Talking 21 Days to High Performance Instructional Leadership, what I did is I just approached it as a conversation because I needed my teachers to teach me how they were teaching and what it meant to be the kind of teacher that they were, whether they're an art teacher or a PE teacher or a first grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher. Those are all things that I, as a person with a middle school science background, had never taught. So not only did I not have expertise in what they taught, but they didn't have obvious room for improvement. So what did we do? We had conversations. And I think the key thing here is to talk about practice, to talk about what we're actually seeing, and to have a conversation about it in a way that makes us both smarter. And there's a particular format of question that you can use that I call an evidence-driven question. These are really powerful because they work for almost anything. I'll give you a couple examples here. These are questions where they're kind of open-ended. They're very flexible, but the common ingredient is that you put in evidence. Take a look at a couple of these. Decision. Tell me about when you blank. What went into that choice? I can ask that type of question, and I can put some specific evidence in the brackets there without making the teacher defensive, because it's not quite the same as saying, why did you do that? What's wrong with you is kind of the implication when we say, why did you do that? Don't ask people why. Ask them to elaborate. Ask them how, what went into that. I noticed, how did that compare with what you'd expected to happen? Or tell me what happened prior to when I came in the room, because I didn't see everything, just kind of fill me in here. If we approach classroom walkthroughs as a learning opportunity for ourselves, teachers will be much more open to reflecting and to learning as a result of classroom walkthroughs. So don't see classroom walkthroughs just as a chance to tell people what to do differently, especially if they're veterans. Leave a comment, let me know what you think.